Good afternoon. On today's episode on Tales from the Grapevine, we're going to take a little break from Wicked, and the next episode will be Wicked again. But I wanted to talk about your experiences and reading stories of people's experiences in abandoned homes. So let's get right into it. This is from Mike4510 from 4 years ago. A group of us went into an old abandoned care home. We got in legally. It was pitch black, and I mean the type of darkness where you cannot see a hand in front of your face. Even when you let your eyes adjust, fortunately, we had a few light sources with us, walking around and finding copious amounts of evidence that there was squatters staying there, not at the time of our arrival, thank God. We found ourselves standing in a room filled with graffiti, but not graffiti from a paint can. This was spelled in, dried blood and excrement. The stench was horrendous. We got out of there as so quick and have never been back since. Same here. I wouldn't do the same. I wouldn't do that either. But it would be cool to not break in, but legally be allowed to be in an abandoned building just to check it out. This one here is from MT Blanche 4 years ago. Broke into an abandoned built house in the village. I grew up in England. Back, house in the village I grew up in. In England, back when I was a teenager, maybe 15 years ago now, was with a couple of friends but broke off by myself and ventured upstairs. When I turned at the top of the stairs, I saw a figure standing in the darkness just staring at me. I bolted out of the building as quickly as I could, and my friends heard me and panicked. They weren't far behind. We went back there a couple of weeks later with a bigger group to prove my story, and to my embarrassment, it was a tall mirror. At the end of the stairs, the figure I saw was me, not my proudest moment. Oh, that's kind of funny, not gonna lie, because I would probably feel that way too, just because you're already kind of probably like low-key scared or freaking out a little bit. Next one here, I used to walk around an abandoned building near a forest. This is deleted but posted 4 years ago. Let's read that. I used to walk around an abandoned building near a forest, which was initially a child hospital in the 70s, refugee housing in the 90s, and a language school for Chinese students till 2007. Since then, it's abandoned. The students left quite suddenly, so I found diaries, certificates, and even food. It was interesting since the place was not vandalized at that time. Once I was inside the building again when I realized someone else was walking upstairs. I never left this place so fast, jumped over the gate, and headed to my car. When I reached there, a police car stopped in front of the building, and the two officers jumped over the fence into the building. No idea what was there, but sometimes I wonder if I avoided more than just a report for trespassing. Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy that someone reported you breaking in. So I was in the building again. I realized, oh gosh. Next one here, Denver State Mental Hospital from Low Cabin Farm Girl. Stumbling across an overgrown graveyard full of tiny little headstones with nothing but patient numbers, no names, no dates, the overwhelming inhumanity that all of these nameless graves represented. It hit me at once. I'm not easily frightened, and exploring an abandoned mental institution in the middle of the night had been an exciting adventure until that discovery, even when I wasn't afraid. Deeply saddened and nauseated, I lost my curiosity. I felt ashamed uh, to be intruding on a space that had seen levels of human cruelty and suffering far beyond what I could ever imagine, so I left and never went back. I wouldn't go back either if I were you. That's crazy. Late to the party, but used to work for a guy renovating houses. He'd buy dumps for like 5 to 10,000 that had been abandoned for years. We'd fix them up and he'd rent the house out. His daughter would go to houses to take pictures after he bought them, buy a lot of them. Uh, since he'd buy a lot of them, sight unseen because they were so cheap. One house she went to take pictures and was kind of creeped out by the basement and did not want to go in. She just opened the door, leaned in, reached her arm, and took a picture. When her dad reviewed the picture, he saw a man standing in the basement about 5 feet from the camera, staring directly into it. Oh, that's so creepy. Oh, no, thank you. I'm glad she was okay by the sounds of it, but hopefully you guys either do something about it or never go back. I don't know. This one here is from Clex Ace or underscore Ace. Several years ago, a man was murdered in the city I was working in, and parts of his body were turning up at various locations. I think his hand and foot found. A week had passed. I'm an architectural designer, and I was surveying an abandoned chapel that was slated to be renovated into condos. It was apparent that homeless people had been squatting in the chapel, but I wasn't sure how recently they had been there. When I went in the basement, though, it was clear someone was either there or just left based on the smell. There was no lights due to the power being cut, and I didn't stick around long enough to see if anyone was currently occupying the space. 2 days later, someone reported that they found the torso and head of the murdered man in a building attached to the chapel. I'd been freaked out by the smell in the basement to continue on to the attached building, but I'm also certain that I would have been the one to find the dead body. Probably. But yeah, that is really creepy. Sorry, my eyes are just weird. I know that, like, when my dad found one at his work, but because he works for apartment buildings with older people, it unfortunately is bound to happen, but it's sad to see. Get glad you did not run into that dead body, because that could be traumatizing for some people. But we have time for a few more. Okay, this one's crazy. So this is from Astra underscore Gallus, and it says, okay. But this is a crazy story, and maybe it would explain what you found. In my undergrad, I took a forensic anthropology class, and our professor, later my graduate supervisor, told us a story that they would bury pigs dressed in women's clothes and underwear to study how the clothing breaks down during decomp. After one such study, they just left the pigs in place and I guess forgot about them. I don't know. Anyways, the story goes to that location that they used was just outside the city and was due to be developed into a shopping center. Needless to say, the developers found the pigs, said WTF, and called the police. Luckily, my prof is also the forensic anthropologist for the police, who was able to explain things to them pretty quickly. Weird day for the tractors, I guess. Well, no kidding. And I think, let me just see the timing on here. We have time for one or two more. As kids, we would walk this quarter-mile railway tunnel near where I grew up. There were no tracks, but it was next to two live tunnels, so there was a slight element of danger. I've been there, done that kind of thing. That and the fact that it was trespassing, except it was not trespassing, it's open path. I guess in railway, workmen or transport police could catch us at any moment. So as you can imagine, it was dark, real dark in the middle, but towards the end, there was enough light to barely see. One day, we took an old school pal down there, and after walking the length, almost at the end of the tunnel, just as it was beginning to get light, he stopped to look down a large uncovered square 3 feet by 3 feet manhole. He didn't just fall in, but after a flash of brief confusion, he did take a deep breath and screamed, then immediately started sprinting for daylight. Oh shit, effing run, he screams. Naturally, without question, we ran, having a hard time catching him up. At the mouth of the tunnel was stopped, all out of breath. WTF, what's wrong? What did you see? We asked. His face was pure white and shaking. Barely able to speak, he said there was someone down there looking up at me. Now this buddy was and still is a good friend of mine, but back then he was known for being the sharpest tool in drawer. Instantly we had an idea what happened, but slowly we returned to open manhole. Then as the four of us stood around this hole, looking down, sure enough, reflected in the still water, about 5 feet down the effing hole, was our four faces looking back up at us. Which is still creepy, though, if you think about it. Um, if you really think about, like, what goes on at night, like, I feel like that's where the spirits really come to life. That's where there's a lot of that activity that happens. My eyes are bugging me all of a sudden, sorry. But that is it for me. Those are the stories of some people in abandoned places. Let me know if you want to hear more of those stories. Maybe I'll make it a series. But that is it for me, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll chat soon. Bye now.